Lewis-Potter. Potter, the wizard. Who is he and what does he want? Well, I'll tell you who he is. He's Keane Lewis-Potter. He's a winger for Hull. He's 21 years of age. He's had one cap for England under-21s. What does he want? Well, apparently he wants to join West Ham United, or at least West Ham United certainly want him to join. We're going to take a little look at him in here. There's no footage, so if you forget it, go watch something else. You can go watch one of those videos of the music with the dance music in it. I just have loads of them actually, and the reason I've done that is so as you don't have to, because those videos are nauseating. I know people think these videos are nauseating, but that's even worse. The first minute is just music and then the player doing celebrations. Then you actually get some goals, some assists, some dribbling. I'll tell you what, there's lots of that. Let me tell you what type of player he is. Anyway, before I do, the reason that I'm talking about him is because apparently West Ham have already declared their interest. We've already tabled a bid. Now, that doesn't mean he can come in this season, but it means that we're looking to get our business done early. We're looking to start up negotiations with the player, with his representatives or whatever. So as soon as the season ends, he can come and join us. Okay? That's why I'm talking about it. Normally, you'd know this. If I think a rumour's a load of rubbish, I wouldn't go into it in such detail. Sometimes, if I see a player and I look at his style and the way he plays, I might look at him and I might say, nah, you know what? It doesn't look like David Moyes' type of player. Well, I've had a look at this one, and he does. So, what have I seen that would make me think that? Well, I'll tell you what, he is direct. He's really direct. He plays on the left wing, but he's right-footed. So, in actual, the mirror image, in many respects, of Jarrod Bowen, who is also from Hull, but plays on the right wing, but is left-footed. But don't be fooled into thinking that just because he comes from Hull, and he's a sort of diminutive size as well, he's only 5'7", he's not the same type of player as Jarrod Bowen, although there are similarities. He's not as stocky, and he's probably a little bit quicker as well. That being said, I don't think he's probably quite got Bowen's poacher's eye for goal in terms of drifting into the middle, but he is very, very effective wide, that's for sure. Now, before we get into the playing style of him, why would David Moyes have highlighted him when, well, we've got lots of players on the left wing, haven't we? Well, no, if you watch this channel regularly, you'll know what I think about our options on the left wing. They ain't too good, put it this way. I think we need someone on the left wing. What I do think is interesting is out of all the positions, because we do have cover there. Whether you like it or whether you don't, we do have cover that can play on the left side. I just find it interesting that this is the first move we've made rather than the striker or the midfielder or whatever the case may be. But you know what? I'm not going to complain. I wanted us to start doing business early, and I thought for quite some time that this is an area of concern for us. I've thought it, and you know what? I think looking at how much we're going for this, and it does appear to be a deal that we're quite advanced into, I understand why. When I look at it, I know Moyes would look at the situation and the position and think he needs something else on the left wing. But before we get into his ability, let's just look at the old Moyes MOT. What's he like? Well, not only have I done your homework for you by watching some videos, listen to interviews as well. He sounds like a straight-talking Yorkshire lad, basically. A little bit shy in front of camera, not a problem. We don't need him to be any good in front of camera. We just want to be good on the football pitch. But when he goes onto that pitch, he certainly does have a ton of attitude. In fact, first game this season, I think was I've just watched a lot of games that Hull City are in, but I think it was a game against Preston. A really, really convincing win. He played really well, scored in it. Was getting a lot of stick from the Preston fans, and he was giving it to them, basically. Giving them verbals back, telling them to shush and all the rest of it. So clearly, even though he's 21, he's not afraid to let his personality shine on the pitch. But how about Moyes' MOT? What about what David Moyes thinks about him as a character? Well, you know what? We've already got a good relationship with Hull. We know all about him. He can ask Bowen what he's like. Bowen still knows people at Hull. And if you tuned in for my Patreon video that I did with the former West Ham scout Jed recently, he went into detail about how scouts and how managers will speak to people in the know, people at clubs, to get a steer on what a player's character is like. And certainly we know this one, and David Moyes would be happy that this is his type of guy, if you know what I mean. Basically, I feel there's a lot of games this season where team spirit and work ethic and determination and attitude have got us through. Basically, does anyone that David Moyes sign fits into that? I feel this kid would. What's he like as a player? he cuts inside a lot, but not so much that the winger, that the fullback would always know he was going to cut inside. He's not afraid to shoot with his left foot. He travels really well with the ball, but he is very direct. He'll only do a step over. He thinks a step over can send a player one way, and if that then leaves a gap, he'll go straight for it. Basically, he will take the path of least resistance. As the crow flies, he will take the quickest route to goal, be that either a shot or a cross or the final ball. He doesn't hang about doing the final thing, the cutting edge. Now, I'm not saying every ball is brilliant, but he does have an end product to him. He really does. In fact, what I was really impressed with his play, actually, was his passing. The weight of pass is very, very good. And because of that, because he has got enough pace to knock it past the player and go down the wing, but also the ability to cut inside, it appears from what I saw, and granted, I was only looking at defenders from League One and the Championship and whatnot, the lower leagues. They didn't seem to know which direction he was going to be going in, and I feel that was that's obviously quite an important attribute, certainly. Also, do you remember something Jesse Lingard used to do, and was he used to slow the player up? He used to almost go to really slow, just sort of tap the ball in front of him, slow the player up, and then a quick acceleration of speed. This is one of his tricks. It's not a flamboyant trick. It's not a pirouette or a rainbow flick or anything like that. It's just very, very efficient set of skills with really you get the idea in mind, just to beat his guy and then get the ball and get the shot off, get the cross in, do the pass. As I say, he's quick enough. I'm sure there'll be quicker players in the Championship, no doubt about it. But he's certainly quick enough. He would add pace to our attack, and I certainly think that when we look at what's happened on our left wing, Fornals has no pace. He really doesn't. Vlasic, I mean, I don't think he looks like a left winger anyway. He certainly hasn't got rapid pace there. And when I asked a question in one of our videos to the live chat, what is it that Vlasic does? Because I can't see. What is it? Is he a trickster? Does he do the long shot? Is he a crosser of the ball? What is his skill set? Somebody said on the chat, on the reply, well, he's an attacking midfielder. Well, okay, but in which case, I hadn't seen that, but I didn't know, but I was grateful for the information. What it did suggest is he's not got that skill set to play on the left wing. And so often this season I've looked at left wing and I think what we need is somebody who can knock the ball past somebody and really go at them. And I think it was really highlighted, I've mentioned it with all those players I just mentioned, but it was highlighted because he was the guy that played there by Ben Rama against Chelsea when he was outpaced by Thiago Silva, which shouldn't happen. Let's be fair, Thiago Silva's old enough to be my granddad, so Ben Rama would want to be outpacing him. Also, you do feel that he doesn't do this guy, I'm talking about Lewis-Potter now, doesn't do a trick for the sake of it. If he does a trick, it is with the aim of getting somewhere. What would David Moyes do with him? I wouldn't assume that he would start every game. I don't want to sort of put pressure on him and expect him to be as good as Bowen. I think very few are. It's very rare that you could pluck a player from the Championship for 20 million quid in Bowen and then be worth 70 million or whatever he might be worth now. That's a rarity. You don't even have to be as good as that. To get someone from the Championship who was become and we're rumoured to be paying 18 million, that would then double his value and become a 30, 40 million pound player. That in itself would be very, very good. And, but that doesn't mean Moyes would throw him in straight away. I do remember when Jarrod Bowen came in initially. Jarrod Bowen came in at the same time as Thomas Souček. Souček went straight into the team. Why? Well, because he'd already captained, hadn't he? Slavia Prague. He'd captained the Czech Republic a couple of times as well. Played Champions League. He was an experienced player. Remember what David Moyes said? He said, I'm talking about Bowen here. He said, we can't expect a lad to come in from the Championship and save us from relegation. So I found it quite frustrating watching it because a couple of times he came on as a substitute and he looked really good. I think, when's this guy going to get his chance? Eventually he did, but Moyes really eased him in there. Now, David Moyes does have other options on that left wing. And obviously there will be times when Fornals does play there. But there is a position there for the taking, which is not something you can say on every area of that pitch. I don't think there is a position there for the taking on the right wing. That being said, squad depth is really important. This is something I had, funny enough, when we were being linked with Rafinha. if you look back at that Rafinha video, there's a few comments there saying, "But where would he play? We've got someone on the right wing." Well, as you know, because I mentioned it before, I think Moyes probably would have turned him into a forward. But let's just say if it was right wing, you can't have it both ways. You can't complain that we don't have any cover, and then when we look to go and buy players that were doubling up in position, say, well, hold on, what's the point in getting him? We've got a player in that position. We've seen 11 players of the first team ain't quite cutting it. So I think this guy would bring a bit of squad depth. I think he would play. I think he would get starts. But you know what he likes? He likes a tactical reshuffle, doesn't he? And there'll be times when you would still see. I think certainly Fornals on that left-hand side. I still have it. I still have a suspicion that Benrahma's off. We'll discuss that in another video, certainly. However, I think the fact that Moyes would want to use him is a massive feather in the lad's cap and of big benefit to West Ham, because even if he doesn't start, for Moyes to actually have a player on the bench that he wants to use, well, that's really something. That's something very, very important, because this is something that we really need as much as anything else. The first team's good, but actually sometimes you get the impression Moyes looks at that bench, either doesn't make a substitution or he's bringing on a substitute that he doesn't really want to. You know, he's not his type of player. Looking at this kid, he is 100% a David Moyes type player. I think it's highly likely, which is why he's getting a video all to himself now. There was a number of videos I was thinking of doing today, which I won't tell you now. But I looked at it and I looked at everything surrounding it, and it does seem to be that this is a deal. And do you know what? We've got a good relationship with Hull because we bought Bowen. I mean, Bowen was, we have to pay over 5 years for Bowen. We're basically still paying Hull, you know, a payment every year. So they know we're good for the money. They know we're decent to do business with, and as much as they've got a track record of doing business with them, should be good. Really interesting player. As I say, don't expect him to set the world alight. Don't expect him to be our best player. But I'll tell you what, he looks a real handful, and in terms of David Moyes' attitude, he looks good. But in terms of David Moyes' style of play, the counter-attack, and a fast counter-attack that's very, very direct, he looks tailor-made for the job.